crashes that changed aviation. A series of tragic accidents have forced aircraft manufacturers and airline regulators to make changes that ensure flight safety today. Before you watch the video, subscribe to the channel and like this video. It is very important for us. Grand Canyon, TWA, and United Airlines flights. On June 30, 1956, two planes flew out of Los Angeles International Airport, a United Airlines Douglas DC-7 bound for Chicago and a Trans World Airlines Lockheed L-1049 Super Constellation bound for Kansas City. The two planes collided in the skies over the Grand Canyon. All 128 passengers and crew members on both flights died. The crash spurred the industry to upgrade the air traffic control system and forced a $250 million investment, an impressive sum in those days. The crash also led to the creation of the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, in 1958 to oversee flight safety. However, further improvements were implemented after a small private plane flew into the Los Angeles Terminal Control Area and crashed into a DC-9 on August 31, 1986, killing 86 people. The FAA subsequently required small planes entering the airport control zone to use transponders that would relay coordinates and flight altitude to air traffic controllers. In addition, airliners were required to have a Class 2 collision avoidance system that signals the potential for an aircraft to collide with another aircraft, also equipped with a transponder. The system advises pilots to climb or descend. Since then, no small aircraft in the U.S. have collided with airliners. Portland, United Airlines Flight 173. On December 28, 1978, a DC-8 approaching Portland with 181 passengers on board circled near the airport for an hour while the crew tried in vain to fix a problem with the landing gear. Although the flight engineer gently warned of the rapidly dwindling fuel supply, the captain, who one investigator later called an arrogant son of a bitch, waited too long to begin his final approach. The DC-8 ran out of fuel and crashed in a suburb, killing 10 people. In response, procedures for crew interaction in the cockpit were changed. Cockpit resource management. Abandoning the traditional captain is God airline hierarchy, the new rules emphasize teamwork and communication among crew members. These rules have since become the industry standard. Cincinnati, Air Canada Flight 797. The first signs of malfunction on Air Canada Flight 797 in a DC-9 flying at 10 kilometers on its way from Dallas to Toronto on June 2, 1983, were streams of smoke from the lavatory. Soon thick black smoke began to fill the cabin and the plane was forced to begin an emergency descent. Barely able to see the instrument panel over the smoke, the pilot landed the plane in Cincinnati. But shortly after the doors and emergency exits were opened and people prepared to get out, there was an explosion. 23 of the 46 people died. The FAA subsequently required that the aircraft toilets be equipped with smoke detectors and automatic fire extinguishers. Within 5 years, all airliners were upgraded to include firefighting devices in seat cushions and floor lighting so that passengers could see the direction to the exits in the thick smoke. And the cabins of planes built after 1988 were made of fire-resistant materials. Dallas-Fort Worth, Delta Airlines Flight 191. On August 2, 1985, Delta's Lockheed L-1011 airliner was approaching landing. At Dallas-Fort Worth Airport, a thunderstorm was raging in the runway area. Lightning flashed near the plane at an altitude of 250 meters and it encountered a strong localized wind gust, a downward shear and a sudden change in airflow that caused the plane to lose 54 knots of speed in a matter of seconds. Quickly diving downward, the L-1011 hit the ground about a mile from the runway, bounced off the highway, crushing a car and killing the driver. The plane then crashed into two huge water tanks. On board, 134 of 163 people died. The crash marked the beginning of 7 years of NASA/FAA research that led to onboard wind shear radar sensors, which became standard equipment on airliners in the mid-1990s. Since then, only one wind shear accident has occurred. United Airlines Flight 232 was flying from Denver to Chicago on July 19, 1989. During the flight, the DC-10 engine failed, causing the hydraulic lines to rupture and rendering the plane virtually uncontrollable. The ensuing events were a terrible ordeal for the 296 people on board. Captain Alfred Haynes struggled to land at the nearest airport, but as he made an emergency landing, the wide-body craft flew beyond the runway and caught fire. The fact that all 185 passengers on board survived was considered a miracle. The National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, later determined that the accident was caused by mechanics failing to locate a crack in the fan disc. The incident led to the FAA requiring redundant safety systems on all future aircraft and changing the way engines were tested. When a 19-year-old Boeing 737 on a short flight from Hawaii to Honolulu leveled off on April 28, 1988, most of its fuselage tore off at an altitude of 7 kilometers. Dozens of passengers found themselves, shall we say, out in the open. Miraculously, the rest of the plane held on long enough for the pilots to land. Unfortunately, the flight attendant died. He was thrown from the plane. The NTSB attributed the accident to a combination of corrosion and fatigue damage as a result of repeated cycles of increasing and decreasing pressure during more than 89,000 flights of the plane. In response, the FAA initiated an aircraft aging research program in 1991 that tightened inspection and maintenance requirements for aircraft with heavy use and high cyclic loads. After that, there was only one plane crash in the US related to metal fatigue. The airplane remains the safest mode of transportation, just as nuclear nenegretics is the safest in the world. But the catastrophes associated with them have a strong emotional response from the simultaneous death of a huge number of people. Thank you for watching, subscribe to the channel and like this video. See you soon! This video was created by Popular Mechanics magazine.